you can throw a dart. Everybody's a hero. Some stocks might go up more than others, but it's a rising tide environment. And so when we're in a rising tide environment, that's when we want to be, holding investments longer. It's a longer term play, usually 5, 10 years. When we're in the tides going down or bearish environment, you really don't want to be holding anything.
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello, welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals and especially how those two goals come together, which is why Chris Vermeulen is with us today, and he's going to be the perfect guest to talk about that. Shares a different way of investing that allows you to only own assets that rise in value and profit during bear markets. Like, hello, that's what we all want to do. He uses an investment method called asset revesting that dramatically reduces portfolio risk while providing consistent annual growth and income. With over 25 years of investment experience and data working with 20,000 self-directed investors, Chris is confident that anyone who wants capital preservation and high growth will naturally gravitate to this logical strategy. Well, it certainly sounds logical, Chris, but before we talk about that, I just want to talk about what's happening to you in the next couple of days.
Well, morning, Christine. Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, there's a lot going on. There's no doubt. Kind of just getting ready for a hike to going to Tanzania, going to do Kilimanjaro with my best buddy, and go on an adventure and kind of a nice retreat with no connection to the internet for 10 days. I cannot wait to just have total freedom, peace of mind, fresh air, rain, you name it. We're going to get it all, but excited.
Well, and that's why when I for your intro, it's like we want financial independence so that we can have this amazing life, right? You don't just want to have a whole bunch of money sitting there. You want to be able to use it and do way cool, imagining fun things, anything you can come up with, kind of things with it, right?
Well, that's it. I mean, I've done the whole journey from, obviously we all start with no money, and I've found multiple different ways to grow capital, and from real estate to inventing and patenting and licensing to running business to selling businesses. I've done it all. And now once you have a lot of money, you got to focus on managing it, protecting it, and growing it, which is why I've naturally gravitated to the investment side of managing and growing through stocks and bonds and commodities and things like that. And eventually you hit a level where you have that freedom to actually step away from things and go do those bucket list, adventures that you've always wanted to do. And so that's, money doesn't buy you happiness, it buys you time so you can go do stuff. And that's the whole thing. And I grew up in an entrepreneur family. My parents always had their own businesses. My sister and I would help them at events and do flyers from door to door. I mean, I grew up the entrepreneurial lifestyle of you never really shut off. You're always thinking of the next idea, the next way to improve. So, yeah, it's just, you got to have that freedom, that time, and money is that. You can hire people to buy your time back, take over tasks you need done, and go do other things that you're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like your way of investing is such a no-brainer. Like anybody would want to only be on the upside, but how does that work?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to it. And so my strategy doesn't just really focus just on like the stock market. I'm so a little bit of a high level for people listening who don't know who I am is I'm a technical analyst, meaning I follow price charts of stocks, commodities, currencies, all of that stuff. And I'm a firm believer that it doesn't matter what the news or economic data or fundamental data around companies is doing, because the key thing is, as investors, we want our money to grow. And so if we just follow the trend, the price action of whatever it is you want to invest in, even real estate, you want to make sure the trend is going higher and you can invest in the stuff that's rising. And so the whole strategy is, I'm very logical. I'm a pilot. I got my pilot's license at the age of 16. So I'm all about checklists. I love, outcomes, and you just work your way through the process. No matter what happens, you'll get there if you just keep plugging away. And so the key is to find things rising in value. And if if they've stalled out, they're going sideways or starting to go down, you simply exit that investment and go look for some different asset that is going to go up. And everything in the world is connected in some way. Within the stock market, if say bonds are going down, in most cases, we tend to see that money coming out of bonds and it's going into stocks, or it could be going into precious metals, or it could even be going into real estate, depending on the market, right? So there's always something moving higher in most cases. And the key is to identify like is are your investments that you hold, are they going up, down, or sideways? And if they're going sideways or down, you're best just to move on to something different that's starting a new upswing. And I think we're coming into an unbelievable opportunity. My focus is trying to help and protect people who have, wealth and a lifestyle, keep it through the next financial crisis, because most people don't know how to do that, unfortunately. But I believe we're coming into a big financial reset for all kinds of assets, including real estate and the economy. But it's a golden opportunity for people starting out who actually are trying to grow and become wealthy and don't have a lot, because the reality is they don't have to worry about losing a lot. And what's happened through a financial reset, like in 2008, is home prices tank. Businesses go under. You can buy businesses for pennies on the dollar. You can buy equipment. You can do all kinds of stuff. And whatever you get into, if you can preserve your whatever you have until the market resets, when you move into real estate at those points, or dividend paying stocks, or whatever it is you're interested in, it's pretty much all upside. And so that's when you can buy a property, it goes up in value, you could sell it, you could buy two more, or you could just start borrowing against the equity value growth in your properties to use the equity in your current properties to buy even more properties. And so I learned a lot about real estate as a kid because my dad was big into real estate. He had about 1,600 doors at one point. So I've lived and breathed and listened to every cassette tape there is on motivation in real estate. And I'm a big holder of real estate. I've got multifamily and high-end properties and self-storage facility and all that stuff. So I mean, I really only talk about all the stuff that I know and that I like and that I know that works. I have a good understanding of it because I was brought up kind of in that bubble. I was fortunate to have a good parent kind of situation to learn the entrepreneur spirit and always be looking the long-term game, look way ahead, bite the bullet now and do the work and delay, satisfaction for the longer term game. So, when like I was lucky that I was able to more or less semi-retire at the age of 27, built my dream home on the water. I had everything. But that's because I worked really hard. I saved. I focused on like, how can I make the most money? How can I leverage my time, my skills, my money? And you go through the tech bubble, you go through the financial crisis. Both of those are actually opportunities to make a lot of money, both on the way up and the way down. And then to reinvest your capital at the bottom of those markets where everything doubles or triples over the next few years. So that's what we're coming into now, is this sweet spot of like, in the next 5 years, people are going to be able to double, triple, quadruple their wealth in all kinds of different asset classes: stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses. Entrepreneurs are going to do really well. It's just a matter of not blowing yourself up as the market has this reset, right?
Well, and that's a great point because that's what we tend to do, right? It's
Yeah,
the stock market. Oh, your money is very emotional, right?
it is.
Something bad is happening to it. You're like, oh my God, I gotta cut my losses. I gotta sell, sell, sell. When actually you should be buying, right? How
Yeah.
do you help to mitigate that with your clients? How do you help them to, and with yourself? How do you like to sort of bite the bullet and say, oh my God, um, this is really nerve-wracking watching this happen,
Yes.
but this is what we're gonna do.
The key is to try, and even I still struggle with it, is to get disconnect your emotions, your fear of losing money, your fear of missing out on gains. Fear is the number one driver of everything.
Yeah.
If you can disconnect from that and just have a proper expectations of investments in general, saying, it's not about I'm going to make 50% return this year. It's like that's not the reality or what you should expect in investments or the stock market. What I do is, of course, everything is systemized. So, if you have systems in place and you have systems running things, then you just have to manage the systems. And it does help alleviate a lot of the stress. And so I have trading strategies, investment strategies in place to identify different market scenarios, from stocks to commodities, even to real estate, of when to buy, when to hold, and all that stuff. And And so what I do is I use technical analysis, which means we follow the price trends on the charts. And it tells us, I like to look at the stock market, for example, like the ocean. So when the tide goes up, what happens to all boats? They all go up.
They all
And
go
when the
up.
tide goes down, they all go down. Well, the stock market and the investment world is pretty much the same. When we're in a bullish environment and the stock market and everything is going up, you can throw a dart. Everybody's a hero. Some stocks might go up more than others, but it's a rising tide environment. And so when we're in a rising tide environment, that's when we want to be, holding investments longer. It's a longer term play, usually 5, 10 years. When we're in the tides going down or bearish environment, you really don't want to be holding anything unless you bought it, forever ago and the pricing is really good and you're still getting dividends. But so the key is to know if we're in a rising or falling environment. And I believe right now we're in this, what I call is a stage three. It's a topping phase. I think it's just before the bottom falls out and we go into a reset. And then it's a new beginning for a lot of people. Now, to break it down to a smaller granular level, which is how I help investors navigate these markets, is I look at the ocean again, just like we are a surfer. So if you see a surfer out floating past where the waves are breaking and they're just sitting there, what are they waiting for? They're
Yeah.
waiting for that set of waves to roll in. Well, the stock market, real estate, all of these have waves that roll through them every year. And so we sit in cash safely on the sidelines, earning interest until we see a wave rolling through a sector or an index or a commodity that is strong. And everything's related in the stock market. So typically, if you see money flowing out of various sectors or assets and it's going into this other asset that you see this trend is starting, this big wave is coming towards you, we can gauge how strong it is. And it's just like a surfer, you can see it coming. We can then pick the wave out of those groups that are showing momentum. Which one fits our risk profile? Which one do we know inside and out? And then we hop on that wave with our capital and we ride it. And the nice thing about catching a strong wave is we also know when it's starting to weaken. So we can start to trim profits. We can move our stop up. We can be mentally prepared going, okay, that was good, but we're going to have to get out soon. And we're going to have to give back a little bit of our gains because we don't get out of something because we think it's topping. We wait for it to actually top and start to roll over. And then we're like, okay, now it is actually going down. Let's get out. So it's not about getting in at the bottom or getting out at the top. There's just this middle section of these swells that roll through various asset classes. And we just do that 5 to 12 times a year. And my whole strategy is based around like I manage my own investments and I just share exactly what I'm doing with everyone else. So it's, what I do is pretty different because I'm actually managing my money and people are riding my coattails. I ride the coattails of the market. And I think that's really important because I know in my industry, in the financial newsletter industry, I know most people just dish out trades, trade this, trade that. And it's really dangerous. The more you trade, the more dangerous it is, the more likely you are to lose money. So we really just manage and rotate our portfolio allocations just enough to catch these waves when the tide is going up and the waves are rolling in. And then when things aren't, going in our favor, we're usually on the sidelines about 30 to 40% of the time of the year, just collecting that, that 4.5% interest with no downside risk, waiting for that set to roll in. So that's kind of how I go about it.
So, Chris, it seems like a fairly logical strategy. Why do you think other people aren't doing that?
Yeah, I know it's people want the big money, they want the returns. And my strategy is stuck in no man's land. So you have really active traders who like think they need to trade a lot to make, they think the more you trade, the more you make, which is the exact opposite. They also think you should have big returns all the time. And then you have the other spectrum, which are like passive investors with advisors who they're like, well, my advisor just buy and hold. I'm just going to leave it. I'll ride it out, right? So active traders almost always lose money over the long run. There's all kinds of studies that prove that. Passive investors with the buy and hold, guaranteed you're never going to retire early because it takes 30 to 40 years to grow because you have actually pretty low average returns with that type of portfolio and you're guaranteed to have one hell of a roller coaster ride. So if you are like 50 plus, close to retirement or retired, and you got the buy and hold strategy, if we go into a financial reset, not only are you going to potentially lose 30 to 50% of your wealth at some point, but you're also going to have many years with no return. And so that dramatically changes your outlook, which lowers your lifestyle because now you're like, I'm going to run out of money, which is the number one fear. And so my strategy fits like kind of in between those, right nestled up against the buy and hold. We do just enough to navigate the waves that are rolling in, the sets of waves, but we don't actively trade. So we're too active for somebody who has an advisor. They're like, oh, that's way too active. That's trading, right? And then for a really active trader, they're like, you don't trade enough. You're never going to make money. So that's the mindset I'm in. So my whole thing is I usually just say I just try to help people who are in the same boat that I am. So we have we have money saved up. We have a great lifestyle. We value capital protection. We want consistent returns, and we want to preserve our lifestyle in our free time. And so that's the whole strategy that I focus on. If you've got capital and you've got a great lifestyle and you don't want to see it be volatile and go away, that's who I help. It's not about making a ton of money, although we do outperform most other strategies, but we don't have the downside risk because we're constantly moving out of something and cash is a position that still goes up. You're still growing even when you're in cash while everything else is in free fall mode. So that's how we are able to sidestep a lot of chaos.
So how do you, when you're looking at a trend? Well, first, I just want to talk about sectors. Like people think, oh, the stock market, that it's just this big blob. But actually, when you think about it, these are all individual companies. So if luxury goods aren't doing well, maybe, discount retailers are doing well, right? People
Mhm.
are still going to need to buy things. They're still, maybe it's the pharmaceuticals, right? Whatever. There's always some part of that big blob that's the market, right? That's it, which is
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. And I think people think, oh, if we're not in the stock market, then we're in something different. But they're actually right. There's different, when you talk about sectors, that's something for people to really understand who aren't that familiar with the stock market. So do you want to just talk a little bit about the idea of sectors within the stock market?
Yeah, sure. So there is a big misconception. So there are sectors, as you were just saying, Christine. So there's like a tech space. There's a financial sector, which means it holds all the banks and the lending companies. And there's a biotech sector. There's all kinds. There's all kinds of ETFs, funds that allow you to just own a specific sector. What most people fall victim to is they end up diversifying. They say, oh, I have this sector, I got this sector, I own Microsoft, I got Tesla, I got Apple. They have all these things, and they're like, I'm diversified. I have a whole spectrum of stuff. What they don't understand is they're all the same trade. They're all stocks and they're stuck in the stock market. They're either generally all going up together or they're all going down. So it is actually just one trade. And the big misconception is people think, well, I'm diversified with all these. I should be okay. But what they don't understand is when you go from owning, say, the stock indice itself, the stock index, which is, I think, the best play, it's the most stable, pays dividends. Once people buy an individual sector, which is a small sliver of the stock market, as you move to smaller things, they become more volatile, meaning they move percentage wise more. So, as the stock market, say, goes through a financial reset, which it has done many, many times, generally we see about a 50% correction. The stock market falls 50%, a sector will fall like 60, 70%, much, much more. And then if you hold an individual stock, stocks are even tinier. They usually fall 70 to like 95% in a bear market, a good chunk of them. And so don't realize these little sectors and these individual favorite stocks that they have are actually little time bombs that are going to just suck their portfolio down. And and that's the problem is the people diversify and instead of thinking spreading your risk out, they're actually adding on all kinds of risk. And then when the market starts to go down, they're like, why is my portfolio like way selling off way more than the stock market? And then they realize, oh, I have no idea what I'm actually doing. It sounded good to have all this stuff and hand select my favorite companies, right? But it's actually the worst thing you could do, especially if you're like near retirement, because it's going to do the most damage.
So while let's talk, so I think we all understand where you're coming from, how your company works. So let's talk about the other side of it, like being an entrepreneur and having the organization, the courage, the structure to be able to walk away, not just from the job for 10 days or a couple weeks, but from even being able to be contacted. So how did you like get yourself to a place where you felt comfortable with that?
Yeah, this this is actually this has taken years to get to where I am, which is I went to this marketing summit in Calgary. So I'm in Canada. Calgary's kind of West Coast. And I went to this, it's called the Millionaires Marketing Summit. This was back in 2008. And there was this guy named Les Hewitt. He had his program was called The Power of Focus, which I really connected with. Long story short, he talks about if you focus on what you're good at and your high leveraged activities and delegate all the other stuff, if you can do all that stuff and replace yourself, they found that if you take 7 weeks of holidays throughout the year, that's the peak spot where you make the most money. He says after you've taken 7 holidays, actually productivity for the company goes down. So they had done all these studies. And so that's always been my goal is like, how do I get 7 weeks off a year of just total freedom, right? Of whatever I want to do. And so I've been slowly implementing that. And then I read another book from John Warlow, which is called Built to Sell. My dad gave me this book a long time ago. And it's all about building, taking whatever you do now, your business, and systemizing it and making it so that it runs better without you. And I was like, no way, there's no way it'll run. Like, it's, you know how it is. If you try and replace yourself with somebody, it's like never quite the standard you want. It's, they don't quite have the insights you have because you're kind of the expert. So I've been working on doing that. And so now I have an incredible team working for me. And I just met with them yesterday and getting ready because I'm going to have zero contact, no cell reception, no internet for 2 weeks. And this will be like the longest, really. I've totally let my business just go without me. And it was amazing. I didn't realize how well we've like subconsciously built things out. Everything, like the business pretty much runs without me already. I'm just kind of, I do morning video updates and afternoon updates because that's my passion and my kind of expertise. But the systems and strategies are all run, they're automated. You know, I don't even issue the trade alerts. Most of our clients don't realize I'm not the one doing it. It's my assistant, it's my team. So I'm finally at this point where I can step away and have zero contact and everything is figured out. We went through every scenario and we're like, they're like, no, we got this, we got that. We know exactly what to do. I've done this. And so it was pretty amazing. So this is a pretty big step for me because my business has evolved a lot in the last couple of years. And so it's constantly like, how do we keep up so it can keep running without me? So this was I mean, this is where the value is added too. As an entrepreneur, value to your business is skyrockets when it's not dependent on you. So most people build a business, they're self-employed, and all they did was create a job. They're never free, they're always busy. Like, you know how that works. So as soon as you get into the mindset of how do you systemize it, I would recommend everybody buy the book Built to Sell. It's a thin, super easy read, high level, but it like really it really connected with me. It's a very, very simple, basic concept. But yeah, I think the key is just to try to create strategies and systems so somebody can replace yourself and do those tasks when you're away. And it's amazing when you let other people do it. They're like, hey, well, there's other ways we could do this that are even better. And before you know it, you like delegate it out and you've got it working better and all that without you. So that is the ultimate goal for an entrepreneur because you know, you can get into real estate. Real estate takes a long time generally to make money. So does the stock market. It's a slow growth. You know, you're looking at 8-15% on average return each year with those investments if they're done right. But you're not going to like really become wealthy unless you get into the entrepreneur space, which is like you can buy properties at the right time and add value to them. And then you know, you can see a big push in the overall equity. An entrepreneur, if you start a business and you systemize it, it instantly becomes many multiples more value. So if you have a business that makes $100,000 a year, but you have to do everything, you're not really going to sell it for much because you're really just selling a job. Well, here's 100 grand, you can buy yourself a job, right? So it doesn't have much money. And I've been to many different workshops for entrepreneurs. And it's funny, we did this one test, we were in Las Vegas, and all these people fill out this form and it tells you what the value of your company would be. And a lot of people didn't want to put their hands up, but he's like, put your hand up if you have zero or a negative number. And it was amazing. About 70% of the people had a business that was not saleable. You couldn't give it away. It was liability, it was work, it was, you know, and that's all because you're stuck in the business. And so as soon as you figure out how to make something happen without you, now you've got value. Now you've got something that runs and generates cash flow. And that is what people are buying. And when you can write yourself out of the equation, you can get a 3, a 10, a 13 time multiple on your business. So $100,000 business, if it runs without you and makes $100,000 kind of revenue EBITDA, you got $1,003,000 business, like $1,300,000 business you could sell if you know what to follow in the structure, right? But if you do everything yourself, it's worthless. People don't realize that effort and that fun challenge of trying to make your business run on its own is like the biggest investment and the fastest way to grow value and build wealth. So just turn it from a you business to how do I just look down on it and have systems and people running it, and then it becomes worth a fortune, and now you've got wealth. Like you can turn a business around in 12 to 18 months. You can systemize it depending how complex it is, and really go from having no wealth to a million or $2 million of value in a heartbeat. People don't realize that. And so that's what a lot of business owners do. They find a business that's beat up. I know people who have taken a business that they were just given the business because they're like, I have this much debt. We don't make money. It's a nightmare. All I do is work. And so they will say, they'll come in and say, I'll take your business over. I'll take over your debt. Just give me your business and you're free to go, because they know exactly what to do. We do this, we systemize that, we do this. And then suddenly the business goes from they got it for free and all they had to do is spend 18 months to turn the books around, systemize it. And now it's worth like a million or $2 million. And that's where the entrepreneur value is find something. And this goes right back, Christine, to the very beginning when I said this is the ultimate opportunity for people to build wealth when we go through this financial reset, because people are going to be able to we are going to be able to pick up businesses that are literally going bankrupt. People are giving it away. It could have been worth 500K 2, 3 years ago, and they're literally going to give it away now. They've got clients, they got a business, they got a brand, they have everything. They just have no idea what they're doing. And so you can walk in and just pick up somebody's business. Their nightmare is now gone. Their wife's slate clean, and you step in energized, ready to just put a system to this. I'm going to hire somebody to do this. And, it's just amazing with Upwork and all those contract companies. You can have people, run your show and in a very economic way, and have multiple layers of people with different time zones. So it runs 24/7, and AI agents we're adding in now. So AI agents can do your inbox. They can do everything, right? So there's a lot of opportunity, and we're really in the best time, I think, for people about to make a lot of money over the next 5 years with this reset and all the tools we have available.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. It's so exciting too. Like you bring up by AI, all the things that AI can do, even like silly things like taking this podcast and putting it into little clips that I can then
I
post.
know. Yeah.
I mean, that costs a fortune to have some editor go through them all, put all the words on, blah, blah, blah. Now it's just like I just upload it in, 5 minutes. I have 30 clips that I can then just upload onto social media. It's just like,
It's amazing.
love it.
Yeah, well, we're working on an AI agent to help us with some tasks, and instead of a full-time staff, it's going to cost us $1 an hour to have the AI agent do the same thing. And we've been testing it. And last
And
night
no
I did
benefits.
like I threw it a real curveball. I'm like, there's no way it's going to do this, right?
Yep.
And it did it, and it did it way better than I would have done it, because it would just take too much energy to explain and bring up like testimonials or members' comments, like. And it did it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Like we just went from full-time staff to like, we have a dollar an hour for something that is better than me, like for that task. And I'm like usually the best for this particular task.
And you don't even have to feed it coffee or give it
No, I
diet
know.
benefits, nothing, no sick
Yeah,
time. It's
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. But this whole idea, and I know there are entrepreneurs out there who are like shaking at the idea of not of being gone, being unplugged for 10 days, where because they are their business, right? And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you say. If they get hit by a bus tomorrow, they have no business because they have
Yeah.
not built any kind of they have not been able to take that 50,000 mile view
Mhm.
or foot, maybe it's 50,000 feet. Is that what it is? 50,000
Depends how
miles
far
might
you
be a
want to be
little
away.
too big. But to look at it and say, okay, who, not how, right? Who else could do this?
Yeah.
Not how can I do it? So yeah, well, that's an excellent way to sort of, I guess the only other question I would like to ask you before we sort of, I allow you to get back to your packing is do you feel like this is your last iteration as an entrepreneur, or do you have other ideas, other things that you would like to do?
Oh, no, I have lots of stuff to do. We're actually shooting a movie this summer. It's a family adventure movie, and I'm working on an invention right now, one that is going to blow everyone's mind. I've been working with some scientists, some engineers, and professors. We are like defying physics or bringing natural physics into motion that have never been captured before. And I'm hoping to have this amazing invention in the movie. I'm always working in my workshop at night, and the kids are always like, "What are you making down there?" They see all this craziness. I'm programming all kinds of stuff and machining parts. But no, I have to me, life is all about like creating and the challenges. I love challenges. I like to make new things. And so that's kind of my core focus is, so I have lots of interesting stuff on the go. And this is the beginning of a lot more adventures. I finally really have hit a level where it's like, it's time to take the family and the kids and go do adventures. And, they're 13 and 15. I don't have many years left and they are really gone. So,
Yeah, they're not going to
um,
want to see you for a while.
yeah, so it's really like focus internal, focus inward with family and friends and
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want you to come back on the show and when you have when you're ready to unveil your invention. But
Right.
what you have epitomized for me the beauty of financial independence, right? You've got the
Mm,
money, you don't have to think about that. Now I can spend my time having fun, making movies, working in my garage and making inventions and stuff like that. This is awesome. It's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Well,
So,
appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I love talking business. I help a lot of individuals and I'm helping a young kid buy his first house. He's 16. He's saving up. We've got a plan for 2 years from now. I mean, I just love it. I love money. I love long-term planners. I always look like 3, 5, 10 years ahead. And I can definitely hold back on instant gratification for that longer game because the longer you hold out, if you do it properly, man, it's the power is there's so much power.
yeah,
It's amazing.
absolutely. Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been great talking to you, and I'm so excited about your trip. Have a fantastic time.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Appreciate it, Christine. All right.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right. Take care.